I signed the check, but I didn't realize I was signing away my right to ever say no again. The coffee in my mug had gone cold while I stared at that checkbook, the one I'd kept in the same kitchen drawer for 30 years. $22,000. It was most of what I'd saved for the first 2 years of retirement. The plan was simple: take what I'd put away, add it to my pension, and finally do some of the things Margaret and I used to talk about before the cancer took her. But when your son sits across from you, hands shaking as he explains how he's finally found his purpose, how he just needs a little help to get started, you don't think about fishing trips or that cabin in Montana. You think about the first time he rode a bike without training wheels. You think about how proud he was at his college graduation. You think about how hard it's been for him since the layoff at the tech firm, watching him send out resumes every day for 8 months straight. So I signed the check. "Dad, I don't know how to thank you," Marcus said that day, and I remember the light in his eyes. "This organic meal prep business, it's going to change everything. Give me 2 years, and I'll pay you back double, triple." I waved him off. "I don't need it tripled, son. I just need to see you happy. See you building something." That was 4 years ago. The business did well. Better than well, actually. Marcus's meal prep service took off in our area. Busy professionals loved the convenience, and his prices were competitive. Within 18 months, he'd opened a commercial kitchen, hired a small team, landed a contract with 3 local gyms. He bought a newer truck, upgraded his equipment, moved into a bigger house with his wife, Kelly. They offered to let me move in with them about a year after Margaret passed. The house we'd shared for 35 years felt too big, too quiet. Every room held her absence like a weight. I'd been managing okay in the smaller apartment I'd rented, but when Marcus and Kelly offered their guest room, I thought it might be nice. Family close by, grandkids eventually maybe. "It'll be perfect, Dad," Marcus had said. "You'll have your own space, your own bathroom. And honestly, Kelly and I would love the company. Plus, you can help out with the business when you feel like it, answer phones, whatever you want." I helped out more than whatever I wanted. I was there at the kitchen 3, sometimes 4 days a week, not because Marcus asked, but because I'd spent my whole career managing logistics at a manufacturing plant. I knew systems, I knew efficiency, and I could see places where the business was bleeding time and money. I never asked for a salary. This was my son's dream, and I'd already invested in it. But I'll admit, there were moments when I wondered about that 22,000. He'd never brought it up again after that first year, when he'd said, "Dad, I promise, once we're really profitable, you're first in line." But we never seemed to get to really profitable, according to Marcus. There was always something: a broken oven that needed replacing, a van that needed new transmission, an employee who quit and needed to be replaced. The guest room was comfortable enough at first. Kelly had decorated it nicely: soft gray walls, a decent mattress, a small desk by the window where I could read the morning paper. But over time, I noticed small changes. The desk got moved to their garage to make room for their exercise bike. Then the exercise bike became a clothes rack. The closet slowly filled with their off-season storage. "We're just a little tight on space, Dad," Kelly explained when I mentioned it. "Once business picks up more, we'll move to an even bigger place." I didn't complain. I kept my things minimal, helped where I could, tried not to be a burden. Then came the day Marcus walked into the kitchen with that look on his face, the same look he'd had 4 years ago when he needed the startup money. Excited, but nervous. Hopeful, but with an edge of desperation. "Dad, we need to talk about an opportunity." I was chopping vegetables for dinner. Kelly was out at some yoga class. Marcus sat down at the kitchen island, pulled out his laptop. "There's this facility available, a much bigger commercial kitchen with multiple prep stations, cold storage, the whole setup. The owner's retiring, and he's offering it for a steal. But here's the thing: if we jump on this, we could triple our capacity. I've already got interest from 2 corporate contracts, meal plans for their employees. This could be the thing that takes us from comfortable to really successful." I kept chopping. "That sounds great, son. What's the timeline?" "That's the thing. The owner wants to close in 60 days. The price is $180,000, which is actually under market value for what we'd be getting." I can put down $40,000 from our business account, and I've been approved for a loan for the rest. But I set down the knife. Here it came. The bank wants a co-signer, someone with established credit and assets. My credit's good, but it's not long enough. Too many new accounts from building the business. He looked at me with those same earnest eyes from 4 years ago. Dad, if you co-sign this loan, we could finally make this thing really work. And this time, I'll make sure you get your original investment back, plus a percentage of the new profits. I'm talking about real money. I wiped my hands on the towel slowly. Marcus, co-signing a loan means if something goes wrong, nothing will go wrong. But if it does, I'm on the hook for $140,000. That's my pension, my Social Security, everything I have left. I know it sounds scary, but Dad, look at these numbers. He turned the laptop toward me. We're already profitable. This is just about scaling up. The contracts are basically locked in. This is a sure thing. I've learned that when someone says this is a sure thing, it usually isn't. Let me think about it, I said. His face shifted just slightly, a tightness around his mouth. Okay, but I need to know by Friday. The owner has other interested parties. Over the next 3 days, I looked at those spreadsheets. I asked questions Marcus didn't love answering. Like why? If the business was so profitable, couldn't he get the loan without a co-signer? Like what happened to the original plan to pay me back my $22,000? That money's all been reinvested in the business, Dad. It's working for you, you're just not seeing the cash yet. That's how businesses work. I talked to my old friend Jim, who'd run his own small business for 20 years before selling it. I showed him the numbers. Bob, I'm going to be straight with you, Jim said over coffee. These projections are optimistic at best. And even if everything goes perfectly, you're taking on enormous risk for someone else's dream. You already gave him startup capital. You've worked for free for years. At what point do you get to protect what you have left? Friday came. I'd made my decision. Marcus and Kelly were both home, which should have been my first clue this was going to be more than a simple conversation. They were sitting together on the living room couch when I came in from my afternoon walk. So, Dad, have you thought about the co-signing? Marcus asked. I sat down in the armchair across from them. I have, and I appreciate you thinking of me for this. But I can't do it. The temperature in the room dropped about 20 degrees. You can't do it, Marcus repeated, flatly. I can't take on that kind of risk at my age. If something happened, nothing's going to happen. Kelly cut in. She rarely spoke up during business discussions, but her voice had an edge I hadn't heard before. Marcus has built something real here. All he's asking is for you to show a little faith in your own son. I have faith in him, but faith doesn't pay a $140,000 loan if things go south. Marcus leaned forward. Dad, you're living here rent-free. We've given you a place to stay, fed you, included you in everything. I've helped build your business, I said quietly. I've worked in that kitchen hundreds of hours for free. Nobody asked you to do that, Kelly said. You offered. The air felt thin. I looked at my son, waiting for him to say something, to acknowledge what we both knew was true, that I'd given more than just my time. He didn't. Look, Marcus said, I get that you're scared. You're older, you're thinking about safety. But Kelly and I have been talking, and we need to make some decisions about our future. This house, this business, we're trying to build something here. And if you're not willing to help us take this step, then maybe, we need to think about our living situation. I blinked. What does that mean? Kelly crossed her arms. It means we're planning to start a family soon. We're going to need that guest room as a nursery. And honestly, Bob, we've loved having you here. But if you're not going to support our growth, then we need to make choices that are best for us. There it was. The ultimatum, dressed up in reasonable language. So if I don't co-sign your loan, you want me to move out. We're not kicking you out, Marcus said quickly. We're just saying that things are going to be changing around here, and we need to know if you're part of that change or not. I stood up. My legs felt shaky, but I kept my voice steady. I need to think. I went to my room, the room that was apparently going to be a nursery whether I co-signed or not, and sat on the edge of the bed. The walls seemed closer than before. I could hear them talking in low voices in the living room, but couldn't make out the words. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Margaret, about what she would say. She'd always been better at seeing through people's manipulations. Bobby, I could almost hear her voice. When did our son learn to hold love hostage for money? In the morning, I made a decision. But before I talked to Marcus and Kelly, I needed to check something. I'd kept every document from the original investment, filed away in a folder in the back of my closet. I pulled it out now, looked through everything. The check I'd written, the promissory note Marcus had insisted I didn't need, but that I'd insisted on anyway, a simple document stating the $22,000 was a loan to be repaid within 5 years or converted to a 20% equity stake in the business, if not repaid. Marcus had signed it, though he'd laughed at the time. Dad, you don't need this. I'm good for it. But I'd learned from my years in manufacturing that you always get it in writing. I took the document to a lawyer on Monday. A simple consultation. This is a legal contract. The lawyer, a woman named Patricia Chen, told me, has he made any payments on this loan? No. Then, according to this, you own 20% of his business, and he cannot take out major loans or make significant business decisions without your approval as a 20% stakeholder. I sat back in the chair. I didn't want it to come to this. What did you want? That was the question, wasn't it? I'd wanted my son to succeed. I'd wanted to help. I'd wanted to be close to family after losing my wife. I'd wanted to believe that love and sacrifice would be recognized and appreciated. I wanted him to just say thank you, I said quietly. And mean it. Patricia Chen nodded. I understand. But right now, you have options. You can enforce this agreement, demand repayment, or your equity share. You can use it as leverage to protect yourself from being forced into co-signing. Or you can walk away and let them freeze you out, but you'd be leaving $22,000 on the table. I thought about it all week. Marcus and Kelly gave me space, but I could feel the pressure building. On Friday evening, Marcus knocked on my door. Dad, we need an answer. The deal on the facility, we're going to lose it if we don't move fast. I'd practiced what I was going to say. I'm not going to co-sign the loan. His face hardened. Then I think we need to. But I do want to discuss my 20% equity in the business. He stopped. What? I handed him a copy of the promissory note. When I gave you that money 4 years ago, you signed this. The loan term was 5 years. We're at 4 years now, and you haven't made a single payment. According to this document, that money converts to a 20% ownership stake. Kelly appeared in the doorway. That's ridiculous. You can't just... I can. And I did. I had a lawyer review it. This is legally binding. Marcus's face went red. You got a lawyer? You're actually going to do this to your own son? You were actually going to kick your father out of your house for not risking his entire retirement on your business loan, I said. So, let's not talk about who's doing what to whom. Fine, he spat. You want to play it this way? Fine. We'll buy out your equity. I'll write you a check for $22,000, and we're done. That's not how it works. 20% of the business's current value, based on assets and revenue. I'd estimate that's somewhere around $85,000 to $100,000. But I'm not looking to sell. Then what do you want? I'd thought about this carefully. I want you to acknowledge that I'm a partner in this business. I want my original investment recognized, and I want to use my equity to secure my own future, which means I'm going to leverage it to get my own line of credit, enough to put a down payment on a small condo. Then I'll move out. You'll have your nursery, and I'll have my independence. You can't do that without affecting the business, Kelly protested. Actually, I can. Patricia explained it to me. I'm not taking money out of the business. I'm using my ownership stake as collateral for my own financing. The business stays intact. You two can continue running it however you want, as long as major decisions get my approval as a stakeholder. When you do eventually buy me out, if you do, it'll be at fair market value. Marcus stared at me. I'd never seen him look at me like that before, like I was an opponent, not his father. This is what you want? To turn this into a business transaction? You made it a business transaction when you turned your home into collateral for my compliance, I said. I'm just protecting myself the way you taught me to. They didn't speak to me much after that. I moved through the house like a ghost, while Patricia helped me arrange the financing. It took 3 weeks. My 20% stake in a profitable business was enough to secure a loan for a small condo across town, nothing fancy, but it had a balcony with a view of the mountains, and enough space for me and the few things I actually cared about. The day I moved out, Marcus and Kelly were conveniently gone. I hired movers for the furniture I'd brought from my old place, the items that had been slowly migrating to their garage and basement. My clothes, my books, my photos of Margaret. I left the key on the kitchen counter. The condo was quiet that first night. I sat on the balcony with a beer, watching the sun set over the mountains, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. I'd lost my son, maybe. Or maybe I'd never really had the version of him I thought I did. But I'd found something more valuable, my self-respect. The business did expand, eventually. I heard through mutual friends that Marcus found another investor, someone willing to co-sign his loan. The facility deal went through. Last I heard, they're doing well. I get a quarterly statement now, as a 20% stakeholder. The business is profitable. My share of those profits goes into an account I've set up. I don't touch it, just let it grow. Maybe someday I'll cash out. Maybe someday Marcus will want to buy me out, and we'll have a conversation like adults. Maybe someday his kid will ask him why Grandpa Bob isn't around, and he'll have to figure out how to explain it. Or maybe we'll never speak again. I've made peace with that possibility, because here's what I learned. Love shouldn't cost you everything you have. Family shouldn't mean sacrificing your security to prove your loyalty. And sometimes, the best thing you can do for someone you love is refuse to enable them. I'm 67 years old. I live in a small condo with a view of the mountains. I volunteer at the community center twice a week, teaching woodworking to kids. I've started taking those fly fishing lessons I always talked about with Margaret. I have enough money to be comfortable, and for the first time in years, I'm not walking on eggshells in my own home. Is this what I imagined retirement would look like? No. I thought I'd be surrounded by family, watching grandkids grow up, being the wise old patriarch who everyone turns to for advice. But I'm learning that sometimes the family you imagine and the family you have are two different things. And choosing yourself, protecting yourself, isn't selfish. It's survival. I signed that check 4 years ago thinking I was investing in my son's future. Turns out, I was investing in my own lesson about boundaries. The view from my balcony is pretty good these days. The mountains don't ask anything of me. They're just there, solid and permanent, reminding me that some things can't be moved or manipulated or guilted into submission. I've got my coffee in the morning, my books in the evening, and the quiet knowledge that I did the right thing even when it was the hard thing. And that's enough.